Welcome back. It's amazing how much discussion this Netflix adaptation is generating about adapting works that might have outdated views.
Yeah.
You asked earlier, how do you balance staying true to the original with addressing those elements for today's audience?
Yeah, it's a challenge for any adaptation, especially for a story so closely tied to a specific culture and time period like this one.
What's interesting is that there's no simple answer,
Yeah.
and different reviewers are grappling with it in different ways. RogerEbert.com argues that the series should have reinterpreted or updated those controversial elements,
Right.
but others, like The Guardian, seem more okay with how the series handled it, even though they acknowledge it might make some people uncomfortable.
Mm.
It raises another question. Should an adaptation smooth over those rough edges, or is there value in keeping them, even if they're uncomfortable, to start a conversation?
That's a good question. I tend to think adaptations can be a bridge between the past and the present. They can be a way to explore those challenging themes and encourage us to think about our own values and beliefs.
That's a great point. Adaptations can definitely spark conversation and challenge perspectives. Moving on from those elements, there's a larger conversation about the visuals. You mentioned earlier how critics are praising the visuals, as if the filmmakers are inventing a new cinematic language for magical realism.
Exactly. Even those who weren't crazy about the pacing admitted they were captivated by the imagery. It makes you wonder if the visual spectacle is a way to make up for the structural changes they had to make.
That's a really interesting observation. The novel jumps around in time, weaving together all these different narratives. The series had to make it linear. Maybe by focusing on the visuals, they're trying to recapture that feeling of being swept away by the story, even though the structure's different.
It's like they're saying, we had to make changes, but you'll still feel the magic.
Exactly. It also shows that magical realism, as a genre, really lends itself to visual mediums. The whole idea is blending the ordinary with the extraordinary, right? Film can create illusions and special effects, bringing those fantastical elements to life in a way that words sometimes can't.
You're making me think of that scene The Guardian described. The trickle of blood making its way through town to tell Ursula about her son's death.
Right.
That's an image that would stick with you.
And that image speaks to another important part of 100 Years of Solitude, the cyclical nature of history, how the past repeats itself in the lives of the Buendía family, the recurring names, the patterns, the echoes across generations.
It can be hard to keep track of all those names and relationships, even if you've read the book.
Oh, for sure. Even experienced readers can get lost in that family tree.
Yeah.
But that complexity is part of what makes the story so compelling. It shows how messy and intertwined families are and how the past shapes the present.
And it makes it challenging to adapt, right?
Yeah.
How do you introduce all those characters in a way that's both clear and engaging for the viewer?
Absolutely. That's where the actors' performances become so important. Each actor needs to embody their character, make them distinct and memorable, even if they share a name with someone from a previous generation.
Speaking of names, let's talk about Ursula and Colonel Aureliano Buendía. For those who haven't read the book, could you give us a little introduction to these characters and why they're so important?
Of course. Ursula is the heart of the family. She keeps everyone together. Strong-willed, practical, the voice of reason. Colonel Aureliano Buendía, her husband, is much more of a mystery. A revolutionary, a man of action, but also prone to sadness and solitude.
He's caught between action and contemplation, engaging with the world and withdrawing from it.
Exactly. And their relationship and the relationships of their children and grandchildren are the backbone of the story. You see how their personalities, their choices, even their names get passed down, shaping the family and, in a way, shaping Macondo itself.
Understanding those characters is key to understanding the bigger themes of the story. It's not just about a family. It's about history, legacy, and how time moves in cycles. And it all takes place in Macondo, this isolated town that becomes a reflection of the whole world.
That's where the Colombian context is so essential. Macondo isn't just a fictional town. It reflects Colombia's history, its culture, its struggles. It's a place where magic and reality are intertwined, just like in Colombia.
It's no wonder that this story means so much to Colombians. It reflects their own experiences, their own identity. And that brings us back to how the adaptation is being received in Colombia.
Remember those pre-boycotts foreign policy mentioned? I think they show how much is at stake with this adaptation. Colombians want to see their story told authentically, with respect and sensitivity.
It's a lot of pressure for the filmmakers. Can the series ever truly meet those expectations?
That's the big question. And it's one we'll probably keep asking as the series goes on. But the fact that it's sparking these conversations, making people think about adaptation, representation, and the power of storytelling, that's already a big accomplishment.
Well said. We've covered a lot in this part of our deep dive. Challenging themes, the visual language, the complexity of the Buendía family, and the significance of Colombia.
We've explored how the adaptation tries to stay true to the original while also interpreting it creatively. And we've seen how it uses visuals to evoke the magic of the novel. We've delved into key characters like Ursula and Colonel Aureliano Buendía, and we've touched on those broader themes of history, family, and the cyclical nature of time.
And through it all, we've seen that this adaptation is more than just a retelling of a story. It's a cultural event, prompting us to think critically about art, history, and what it means to be human.
Now, in the final part of our deep dive, we'll look ahead. We'll explore what to expect from the upcoming second season, and we'll discuss the lasting impact of 100 Years of Solitude on literature, culture, and the world.
Join us as we continue exploring Macondo and the Buendía family. There's more magic to discover in the next chapter of this incredible story.